Hello, Spookaroos, and welcome to Spooky Times with Eric D. I am your Eric D., and this is the second part of my interview with the famous actress, infamous actress perhaps, Eileen Dietz. You might know Eileen from any of the, 14 or so movies she's made in the past year and a half. She's done a lot of horror movies, and she's going to talk about a lot of those, but of course, some of the more famous ones she has done for our purposes are Helter Skelter, where she played one of the Manson family girls, and most notably of all, she is the face of death, aka Pazuzu, aka Captain Howdy in The Exorcist. And if you listen to the last episode we did, you'll know which scenes she was involved in, because of course Linda Blair played Regan, but she needed a little help sometimes playing the possessed version of Regan and the demon. So that's where Eileen came in, and she's going to tell you more about that. We cover a little bit of ground that we covered in the last interview, and then we were getting to some new questions, and then she kind of ends the interview a little bit abruptly. I actually told her I had a couple more questions. I don't know if I said something. There was kind of a weird moment. It's not in the show, so you won't hear it here, but if you ever see me in person, there was kind of a weird moment you can ask me about, and that might be why she was like, okay, we're going to stop talking now. So we'll see about that. But otherwise, perfectly lovely interview, perfectly lovely person. I think you guys will enjoy it. We get into lots of things, all the stuff I just talked about, but also just acting in general and what it takes to make it as an actor in New York, in Hollywood, and even some of our favorite Broadway shows. So I hope you guys will enjoy. But before you do, I need to tell you to check out spookyas.com or spookyasshit.com. They both take you to the same place, and that is the show's blog page. From there, you can listen to almost each and every single episode, sometimes with bonus content, and you can also find links to our social media. We are at Spooky Times with Eric D on Instagram, and you can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Spooky Times with Eric D. And of course, if you really want to support the show, you can find me on Patreon, patreon.com/Witchfinder, because, of course, Spooky Times with Eric D is a Witchfinder production. Now, Eileen's going to tell you where you can find her and where you can purchase her items, and I hope that you will. I hope you'll at least pick up some signed pictures or something from Eileen Dietz, because she was kind enough to do this interview for you, Spookaroos. And listen, that demon face, that is an iconic face. That is a horror movie staple and a true icon of the genre. So I think you really owe it to yourself to pick up something signed by Eileen Dietz. I've got my signed Pazuzu, and she was kind enough to send me a copy of her book, which she also signed for me. So that's a classy individual. So you guys enjoy this interview, part 2, with Eileen Dietz of The Exorcist and Helter Skelter, and so much more. Oh, and I almost forgot, at one point in the show, you're going to hear her talking about a movie, and she says that she can't remember the name of it, and she actually spent the rest of the interview trying to look it up on her phone. But the name of the movie, she told me afterwards, she emailed me afterwards, is Death with Dignity. Death with Dignity. So that's the name of the movie she's talking about when she says she can't remember the name of the movie. So now, finally, here is the interview. Okay, so yes, we did talk before. So this is part 2 of our interview, but let's see. Last time we talked, we had some audio trouble last time.
We certainly did. You know, I had the same problem yesterday. I was doing a Zoom table read for a film I'm starting in April. And they could hear me, but I couldn't hear them. And
boy.
The whole cast was there, and the director, and everybody. It was just horrendous. And somehow, I don't know, I closed the meeting, I opened the meeting, I actually started to use my phone, and then somehow it clicked in. But I missed the beginning, I missed the introduction. So. Yeah,
well, that's, this virtual world is very fun, isn't it? With all these new things we get to learn about on the fly as we go.
I'm technically challenged.
Well, it seems like you're getting used to things, so that's good. I would like to just touch on a couple things that we talked about last time we talked.
Okay, wait a minute. last time I talked and you listened, so I'm gonna listen.
Okay, well, yeah, I don't know how interesting that will be for my listeners, but although maybe, I don't know, I've
Oh,
tried to do,
no. I'll answer specific questions.
yeah.
I just won't go on for 5 pages.
No, that's okay. Yeah. All right. Well, first of all, now you very kindly sent me your book. I didn't get to read the whole thing, but I read more than half of it. And I read all the Exorcist stuff, and uh, the part that I really enjoyed was your early days, before The Exorcist, when you were just talking about being an actress, just starting out in New York, because that's something I can relate to in a way. I never went to New York, and I can explain why later on if you want, but that's what I went to school for, was theater, musical theater specifically. I went to the Boston Conservatory. And so, being around that world, showbiz people or wannabe showbiz people and stuff like that, and just kind of starting out and trying to figure out what the best thing to do is, and wondering how you end up in certain shows and that kind of thing. I could relate to all of that. So I really enjoyed that part of the book. And you had some interesting experiences along the way. You mentioned last time that you had a Me Too moment. And I did read that part of the book. So I'm sorry that happened to you, but I'm sure, unfortunately, it happens to a lot of young actresses out there.
I hope today not so much.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure it's slightly less now, but
I thought it would change when Godfrey, AIDS was around and stuff like that people would be more careful, but apparently it has not.
Yeah. Well, it's the problem with people in power. You're going to get bad people in power sometimes too. And if there's a way that they can exploit people, they find a way.
The irony, except for people like Weinstein and people like that, for sure. I guess there's a lot of them that don't know, but a lot of the people are people who work on sets as first ADs and young little actresses, and they say, hey, I can help you, come with me, and I'll do what I can for you. They can't do anything. They can't do shit. I can't do anything. I mean, people don't, very, very rare. Once in a while, people ask me about casting, and I'll say, but I can't, it is pretty horrible.
Yeah. So that part was not so happy, but you did get to work with Anthony Perkins, which you said in the book that you enjoyed.
Oh, I loved it. The thing for your audience, why don't you hold up the book, and the book's behind me.
Exercising My Demons, making sure it's not shining on it.
And I have to mention Dan Louvier because he wrote it. I just told him stories. He was in Connecticut and I'm in LA, so we had to do it about 5, 6 o'clock at night. But that the book, I'm just hitting on the point you said. There's a lot of sad moments in the books, but there's also a lot of very happy, funny moments in the book on my journey to becoming an actress and landing in The Exorcist. And Dan, I thought, did a fabulous job. I mean, at the end of the whole story about, I went to Michigan to, it was my first big professional job, and the guy promised me a part here, and I was going to do a lead there and a lead there, and I naively remembered. And then when I first got there, and then you have to read the book, it was a horrible experience. But as Dan Louvier put it, on the bus ride home, I said, what am I going to tell everybody in New York? I bragged to them I was going to be this actress and act in this and act in that. I looked down at my hand, and I had my equity card. I was a professional actress. So that's how the whole book goes. And I did. I joined the union, and then I joined the Screen Actors Guild, and I was on my way.
Yeah. So just if we can talk about Steam Bath a little bit, because I don't know if you have an Anthony Perkins story you might like to share, because of course he's going to have a lot of fans on my program.
First of all, may he rest in peace. And Tony, I have been so fortunate in my career. I've worked with such wonderful people, from Roddy McDowell to Anthony Perkins to Keanu Reeves. I mean, I've just worked with such fabulous people. But with Tony Perkins, first of all, as you know, I write in the book about commitment, and people ask me advice about how to become an actor, and the first thing I say, and actually Malcolm McDowell says the same thing. He's just my manager, Chris Rowe, that you have to almost be obsessed. You have to. When I started out, this will age me, but I mean, there's certainly no cell phones. There weren't even answering machines or answering services. So you had to stay home, and or you might miss a phone call. You know, you couldn't. I didn't even take any vacations. All I wanted to do was act. And that fateful Sunday afternoon, I was home, and I had auditioned for the play, but they didn't cast me. And then they called me and they said, "We just lost our actress. If you can come down to the theater now, then we'll give you the part. Otherwise, we're going to go to our next choice." So we did that. And there I was, and I got cast. I was an understudy to the lead, and I had my own small part in that. And you really have to read the book, but there was a nude scene in that. And there were lots of nude scenes in theater in the 70s. So I didn't really think about it, but one day the lead got sick, and there I was, and my roommate was in the movie, and I was very androgynous at the time. And the people in front of my roommate looked at her and said, "You know, I thought I'd be embarrassed by a nude scene, but I didn't even know she was naked." So it was a wonderful experience. They said they wanted to open it on Broadway, but they opened it on off-Broadway. They were so sure it would move, so we all got paid Broadway salaries, which is a lot more money. And we just previewed forever, and we went through 3 different actors, and Tony Perkins just turned out to be a friend. And when he was in Equus and my mom came to New York to visit, he got her front row seats. And I saw him right before he passed.
Oh, well, it's always good to hear that someone you admire on screen is actually a good person in real life too.
We went through 3 actors, and Tony always wanted to play the lead, so the 4th actor was him.
Yeah.
Oh, well, and also when I did the part that night, this is a sign for hurry up.
Yeah.
So he kept going like that. I thought that was very funny.
Yeah. Well, speaking of nude scenes, I've done them too on stage, and I am not I'm a larger person, and I was in Hair, 2 different productions of Hair.
Oh, I auditioned for that like 4 times. They never wanted me.
Yeah, well, I ended up playing the same character twice in 2 different productions.
And which character was that? I know the show so well.
Okay, Wolf.
Pardon? Wolf?
Wolf, yeah.
Wolf,
he sings Sodomy, and that's his main song, I guess, but he sings in all the other ones too.
You guys out there should look for it. The movie's not as good as the play, but I think it's okay, right?
The movie's okay, but it's not even the same story at all. Like, it's the same music, but story's completely different. But anyway, being a big guy, I was not 100% comfortable with it, but I said, like, if you do Hair and you don't do the nude scene, and they didn't make us do it, but it was optional whether you want to do it or not, but you had to decide, like, you couldn't do it one night, but then like not do it the next night because your mom or somebody was coming. If you were going to do it, you had to do it. And if you weren't going to do it, then you couldn't do it. Right. And I said, did you really do Hair if you don't do the nude scene? Like, that's kind of, that's in the spirit of the thing. Right. And I was nervous about it, but nobody ever asked for their money back. So it couldn't have been that bad. And I also figured there's like 20 other people on stage. So they might look at me for a second, and then they're going to pass on to somebody.
Yeah, there were so many people there that I don't think you ever looked like directly at anybody. And it wasn't that long, right? How long do you think that whole thing was?
It depends. In one production, it was probably like less than a minute, but in the other one, it was like 2 minutes. Because we were out there for like that whole Where Do I Go song, basically, we came out.
Did you know that show started as a a little off-Broadway show with no music.
Yeah, I didn't know there was no music, but I knew it started
Yeah.
at La Mama.
It
I
was
think it
just
was.
a play about the war.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I
and
really did audition for, so the last time I auditioned was for the Broadway show, because they finally took it to Broadway after
yeah,
playing off Broadway for so long.
yeah. And actually, I met my girlfriend in the last production that I
Well, how
did of it,
cool. What
and
did
she
she
did.
play?
She was in the ensemble, and she did not do the nude scene. And so now I always joke around that, like, well, she saw me in the nude scene and decided that's the one.
And I just kept singing, I knew a boy named Frank Mills. But
Yeah.
I'm not a singer. And in my next life, I always said, I want to be a gypsy. I want to sing and dance and on Broadway. I did
Yeah.
one show. Yeah, I did
Yeah.
Dainty June in Gypsy. And that was
Yeah.
the long and short of my musical career. I could
Yeah.
carry a tune, like whatever. The only way to do it is to do it.
Yeah.
I don't know if you cherish, I mean, all my life, even up to now, because I don't care, it's not important. I've always not spent a lot of money. I've always been able to find places to live that I could do. And I've never, even in New York, I mean, New York was easier, and I had a rent control place. You didn't have a car, you didn't have insurance, you didn't even have credit cards. But
Sure.
even now, my husband and I never go to restaurants unless we're vacation. Oh, we go to Las Vegas a lot to bet football. We're degenerate gamblers, but we go to Vegas a lot, and we still don't go to fancy restaurants, and we never go to fancy restaurants out here. It's not worth the money. I mean, so we actually say never go to a bar. I mean, in LA, a drink is like $9 or $10, and you're spending $100, and so, we keep our credit cards down, blah, blah, blah. And there's just certain things that all you people out there, if you want to become actors, in my opinion, I think it's harder now, but don't get that fancy apartment. Don't get that new car. Don't run up your credit cards. Don't even buy a lot of clothes. If that's what you want to do, then that has to be your objective. And you just take a job. I don't think you can be a hyphenate as an actor. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, you can't be a legal aid and an actor, or some CEO. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
in my opinion, you just be an actor, and then you find jobs to support yourself. I mean, if you read the book, you'll figure it out. But I take waitress jobs, and when I got cast in something, I quit. But I always had enough money to live on. So do it.
All right.
Eric, I want to do it. I want to see a playbill with your name on it. I suppose you sing very well.
I do my best. I wouldn't say I'm the greatest, but I was good enough to get into the conservatory, so that's good.
No. Say you're the greatest.
All right, I'm the greatest.
And you don't do your best. You do, I mean, I don't know if this show is going to be a whole lecture, but I really get on actors that say, "Oh, someone did this a couple weeks ago." Said, "Oh, I did Dead Like Me, but it was just a real small part," And I said, "Why the hell are you telling anybody it's a small part? That's a huge credit. You just tell somebody you shot Dead Like Me too."
Yeah.
And so that's how I feel. We need to never denigrate ourselves about the work we're doing and stuff like that. I mean, I just flew all the way to Eugene, Oregon to do one tiny half scene, and they just wanted me to come. I said, okay, got to pay me, got to, fly me in. But and then on the other hand, I did a film called Night of the Caregiver that was a 2-character film. It's going to be great. Look for it. Night of the Caregiver.
All right.
It's basically a 2-character film about a woman, me, who's apparently very sweet and nice, who's dying from something. And she gets a caregiver to come over to the house, and then all this horror comes about. I'm not allowed to quite say what it is, but just know that my character transforms from this very sweet lady. But so that was 7 scenes and a 2-page monologue. So I do everything, as long as I like the script.
All right, so let's see. What else do I have? Oh, I know what I wanted to talk about a little bit because we were kind of in a rush last time we talked, and you mentioned something that I didn't know about, and then I read the book, so now I know a little bit more about it. But after we finished the conversation and I was editing it together, I was like, wait, did she just say she was in a mime cult?
In a
And
what?
a
In a what?
mime
Oh
cult.
yeah, the Lincoln Center. Oh
And I
yeah,
was
well
like, yeah,
that
she
was
did say
it.
that.
Yeah, and that's what led me to getting cast in Helter Skelter
Yeah, that's
because
how you mentioned it in the last episode. But I was like, wait, I feel like we just brushed over that too much. Um, but yeah, basically you said this guy was kind of like a cult leader, the guy that ran the
well he was, except and it also was an occasion of the times when we did that. You know what I mean? I mean, there were groups and stuff like that, and he just he ended up in a nut house, but he had these grand dreams, and I'd never been a mime before, but it sounded like a good idea at the time, and we did it, and it just turned out it was really. He didn't want anybody to kill anybody like Helter Skelter,
yeah.
but he did say, "I need so and so fabric for this show. Go get it," and somebody would go get it, and I need this for this show, and he'd sit on this chair and I believe that we had a company of actors at the time, and I'm sure half of them were sleeping with him, boys and girls. Wasn't my thing, and and that's as close as it was. People just literally sat at his feet, and we did end up doing a show at Lincoln Center, and I did meet my roommate there, and then we put together something called the I Joe Mime Troupe, which was for Eileen and Joanne. And yeah, we did some touring and stuff. So it turned out to be a happy story. But I wrote a letter to the people at Helter Skelter, and I said, there but for the grace of God go I. And I really understood those people. And what happened, they were all lost. The girls who killed people, they were all lost. They were all looking for some kind of love or stuff like that. And if they turned to the left instead of turned to the right and met Charles Manson, they wouldn't have killed anybody. So I just, obviously, I'm not related to the people who got killed, but I think it's very sad. And they should have let them out, except the people they killed. And they said they would rather have died in prison. But anyway, I love shooting the film. It was one of my favorite projects.
Yeah, so I know obviously you were in the outside the courtroom scenes because that's where you have your big line at the end of the film.
My big line.
But you were also like were you in like all the family scenes or just certain ones or
just certain ones?
Okay. Because I know you mentioned
when there were big family there, I was there, and we actually shot. I would have gone in the car, but there was no room. When they went to the murders, my character, there was no room to get in the car, and that's not in the film. But I was around a lot, and one of my favorite scenes was, I think I mentioned in the book, but we're around a campfire singing Charles Manson songs. He imagined himself a very successful songwriter, and there was a full moon, and we're sitting around this campfire, and I tell you, it felt real.
Yeah.
Really felt real. Especially, and also on the courtroom scene when the cameras left to shoot something else in the courtroom scenes, people started yelling at us. They thought it was real and that we were really, picketing the courthouse. And they really started screaming and yelling because the camera was down the street and they didn't see the camera.
Yeah. Well, and again, too, and I think we talked about this on the last time we talked, but it wasn't that long after the actual events that you guys made that movie. It was only a couple years.
Pretty much.
So yeah, people were. And did you guys actually film at Spawn Ranch, or was it filmed other place? It was filmed at Spawn Ranch.
No, we absolutely did. And it was very soon after I came out to LA. So when I shot Planet of the Apes, I had no idea where I was. They just said, go in this direction and we're going to shoot in the Bronson Caves. And when we did Helter Skelter, I guess I drove out there. I don't remember. We just landed up there.
Another thing that we've already touched on, so we don't have to go into it in full detail, but I don't think we quite got the full story of why there's some animosity with Linda Blair.
We don't get it. No, I don't really want to talk about that.
Okay, we won't talk about it at all.
No, I mean, a little Linda really wanted to win the Oscar, and I came out to LA and they released a story that I was in the film and what I did in the film.
Well, that was the part that I think was a little unclear. The rest of it, I think we already covered. But yeah, I didn't realize that there was an article that was written that was like
a very famous gossip columnist out here called Joyce something or other.
Haber or Haber, something like that.
Yeah, Joyce Haber. Yeah. Thank you. And a woman I knew that I took an acting class with knew Joyce Haber, and I knew somebody who worked for the LA Times. So she told him, Eileen's coming out to LA and da-da-da-da-da. And Joyce Haber picked up the story and released it in her column. It was like, who really did what? And somehow the story came out that I didn't do much. It was a very painful thing. And Linda's never forgiven me. She thinks that if she had won the Oscar, she would have a career now.
Yeah.
And that was, made me very powerful that I could.
Yeah. Well, and I mean,
it's cost me a lot of money because if promoters have a choice of her coming in to do a convention or me, they'll still go with her because she's a big draw, even though fans are really unhappy with her. So, c'est la vie. I do a lot of stuff, and I do a lot of films. I shot 14 films in the last 18 months. No, 12, 13, about 16 months, last year and a half. And I did shoot another one called Of the Devil. That's it's got almost an Omen kid in it. That they take him down to Mexico to get treated for brain cancer, and instead he's given this whole spiritual thing, and he lives, but he's a demon. So that's a good one. And I just like to talk about the movies that I did. Like I said, sure. I went up to Eugene and I shot this. Oh dear, I forgot the name of it. Oh dear. But I did another one in Portland called Haunting in Ravenswood. And then I shot another movie called The Last Sleigh Ride, Slay, where I played Granny Vampire. And she was running around like an elf going, blood, where's my blood? Blood. I need meat. Give me meat. Where did everybody go? I can't find it. And stuff like that. So that was The Last Sleigh Ride. And I always promise I'm going to mention Thomas Churchill's Amityville Harvest. There's a good scare in that one. Really good makeup scare in that one. Stay to the end. And I always like to talk about horses because that's in the book too. I rode horses since I was 7 years old. I did a commercial riding a racehorse in Central Park. And I've just been acquainted with a movie called Dead River, which is about a wild horse farm. And she also takes in people from bordellos. That's called Dead River. And I don't know if I'm going to do that film. But if you see that movie come out, then go see all those. And most of them come out on Tubi. So if you haven't found them anyplace else, you can just put Eileen Dietz up there and you'll see Abnormal Attraction, which is another horror comedy. And such stuff. I'm going to text you the name of that other movie because I can't remember it.
Well, you've worked with Rob Zombie.
Yes, I did. That was fun. Except he, like I said, I've worked with such great people, like Keanu Reeves. I worked with Keanu Reeves on Constantine.
Yeah.
And I worked with Jamie Foxx on a show that I don't think has ever come out. Yeah, Rob Zombie was fun. And it had rained for days and days and days, and the whole set was wet and everything was wet. But he kept his, demeanor, and he's a real nice guy.
Yeah, I got to be honest with you, his Halloween movies were not my favorite. As a fan of the original,
I'm pleading the fifth.
Yeah, but he himself, I appreciate the vision that he has, narrow as it may be, sometimes. But I go against the grain. Actually, I liked his first movie, House of a Thousand Corpses, better than the sequels that he made.
I don't think that's really
like,
going. That's not really going against the grain.
No, most people think that House was kind of whatever, but then Devil's Rejects was like the good one. I like the first one better, to be honest with you. But
yeah, I'm going against the grain.
Yeah.
Because I like Devil's Rejects better. I've never gotten through House of a Thousand Corpses.
Yeah, see, to me, it was style over anything else for the first one for me. I enjoyed. It was more like a carnival ride. And there's a scene that is literally like a carnival ride in that movie.
I just thought his films are very dark, and they're like very dark. And Halloween 2 is very dark, and but hey, he does what he does. My favorite film was Lords of Salem.
Yeah, I actually have to rewatch that one. I watched it, but it was before I really became associated with Salem, because like now I'm the Witchfinder General of Salem, if we haven't talked about that before.
What is that?
I am officially licensed by the city to go through the tourists and pick out the witches among them.
Are you kidding?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and then I put them on trial in the street and everything, and we have a lot of fun, and it's kind of like roasting somebody.
How do you find the witches?
Oh, you can tell. Most of the time they're volunteered by their family. They'll be like, oh, she's a witch, and they'll push them towards me. Or sometimes which is.
But how do they know you're looking to interview witches?
Oh, they can tell by my uniform, which is a Puritan outfit. And and I have a sign with me and stuff, and I got my badge and all. So
that's so great.
Yeah, we have a good
time. I miss going to Salem when I've done Rock and Shock in Worcester.
Yeah.
Like at the horror convention, I don't know, 3-4 times. And my manager was there, and they went to Salem in the morning before we took off to take an airplane home. I can't do that. I get too nervous about missing flights. So They went without me. But one of these days I'll go.
If you come back, let me know. I'll give you a personal tour. I'll show you all the good stuff. So last time you were on, we talked about the makeup a little bit, but of course, as you put through in the book, working with Dick Smith, as you say, he's a real artist. I don't know if you have any other specific memories you would like to share.
Only that we did makeup tests for The Exorcist, and I went to Dick's lab, and his lab had just face masks of, Dustin Hoffman and Marlon Brando and all these people that he made face masks for. And Dick loved to talk. So he told me great stories about Marlon Brando, who was afraid to make this face cast. He didn't I guess he was claustrophobic. And now Dick just loved to tell stories. So he had to make sure that I could play the devil that possessed Reagan for the scenes that weren't the Pazuzu scenes. So I spent a long time there. He lived just outside in New York City, and we became friends. And when he came out to LA, I had dinner with him, lunch with him just before he passed. And he just turned out to be a real good friend.
That's, again, good to hear.
And a genius. He created most of the makeup, horror makeup, and so many horror people learned from him, like Rick Baker, and he had an amazing school, and he was just a real nice guy, and actually created my career because he had to approve me to shoot for The Exorcist, and he did.
Yeah. And when you look through the pictures, it's really hard to tell which one might be Linda Blair and which one might be you.
That's
But
'cause
of course, that's on purpose.
No, she sells some of my pictures.
Well, but even so, it's it's a very slight difference, really. But also the actual Captain Howdy demon face, not the Regan makeup, but the actual black and white face, which has become so iconic now. I don't know if you. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say it's become the icon for The Exorcist. Whenever Warner Brothers puts out anything, like when they put out the record that they did, there was the face of death on it. Whenever they do any publicity right now, they use the Reagan face. Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry. they use Captain Howdy. They very rarely use Linda. I don't know why.
Yeah, well, I mean, a little girl on her own maybe isn't all that terrifying, but
actually, one of the faces they use, one of the iconic faces they use, actually isn't Linda. It's half me and it's half the dummy. Strangely enough, I don't know why. They didn't tell me.
Well, I don't know if you are aware or if someone has pointed this out to you before, but there is a wrestler who is becoming kind of well known. And he wears face paint. And I didn't know this, but I read recently that he designed that face paint based on the face of death.
Is that right? I didn't know that.
Yeah, let me see if I can share it with you. I have a picture pulled up here. Let me see. His name's Dan. I need to be paid for that.
You
can tell him.
Actually, Warner Brothers owns that, not me.
Yeah. Let's see. It's not a dead ringer, so you can probably get away with saying like, oh, it's not, but anyway, I just thought it was nice that he was inspired enough. All right, here we go. Do you see this gentleman?
Yes, it's close enough. Yeah. That's
He's
impressive.
I got to be honest with you. I don't really watch wrestling. I used to when I was a little kid. I loved it. But now as an adult, I don't watch it as much. But he does like a comedy kind of thing on YouTube. Like he has his own thing. He's called Danhausen. But yeah, he said that, that makeup inspired his makeup. So I just thought that was interesting. And I didn't know if anyone pointed out to you. So glad to be the first.
Yeah. Tell me to get in touch with me. We'll see if we can work out something.
Well, let's just remind everyone, if they want to buy a book, if they want to buy a statue, if they want to buy an amulet, or whatever else, some pea soup or whatever else.
It's actually a little head.
Yeah.
It's an exact replica of the head that they found in what was Iraq in the beginning of the movie. And I have an Exorcist script that I sell, my Captain Howdy green pea soup. And of course, about 8 screenshots, I think, from The Exorcist, all autographed. But if you go to eileendietz.com, then you can see most everything. But if you want anything, you can't order from my webpage. You have to go to either Eileen at eileendietz.com, my email, obviously, or the best way is to go to Facebook and send me a private message, and I'll tell you all the details. But do not go there unless you want to buy something, because I'm sorry, it's just for friends and family. But if you want to buy something, then go on Facebook if you want.
All right, very good.
That's it. That's my pitch. that's my conversation, and I'm gonna go. I have a meeting tonight with some filmmakers I know, so I gotta get ready for that. I never stop. I mean,
you got that hustle still. That's good. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't. People are coming to me now instead of me going to them, so that's really good. And I am doing another film. It's called The Devil's Darling. It's really cool, and we're doing that the first week of April. And if you guys have seen The Witch, that came out a couple years ago, it's very, very similar to that. And in this one, I play the witch, so that's exciting.
Very good.
Okay, that's it.
All right. Well, good luck with your meeting.
Well, that's a dinner meeting, so at least we get to eat.
We'll have a good dinner then.
And you go out there and you'll find work as a musical comedy star.
All right, I'll do my best. I mean, I will. I'm the greatest.
You'll just be. I agree with that. But you'll just be a character actor, and there's God knows. Look at the guy that runs the orphanage in Oliver, for instance.
Yeah.
You know, there's producers out of one of my favorite shows, which is The Chorus Line. I love that show. And so there you go. Go do it.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks again.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Spooky Times is a Witchfinder production.
Don't be afraid.